Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2025 Emerging Trends Forecast. I'm Tiffany Nielsen, and joining me is the CEO and founder of IoT Marketing, Johannes Beekman. How are you today, Johannes?
I'm doing great, Tiffany. How are you?
I'm amazing. And I'm so excited to be sharing the top tech trends for 2025 with all of you today. And please feel free to drop us a note in the chat and let us know where you're joining from as this event is live. I already see that we have Santa Cruz, California, Toronto, and Raleigh, North Carolina in the audience, as well as South Dakota. So, hello, everyone. And we have a lot of trends to cover today and some amazing experts and industry leaders, as well as solution providers, to share with you all that you can expect in the year ahead. And we'd also like to give a big thank you to all of the speakers and sponsors: Knowledge Reactor, HAE Innovations, IoT Global Providers, and the Strategy Pitch, as well as our media partners, IoT Insights and Coruzant Technologies. And also a big thank you to all of you for joining us. And this event is produced by IoT Marketing and Industry Insights webinars, and we offer marketing services, thought leadership, and lead generation, and more. So if you're in need of marketing services, please reach out to us, as well as if you're interested in one of our many speaking, sponsorship, or advertising opportunities. We're happy to have a free consultation with you. Anything to add about our services and events, Johannes?
Well, I would like to say that we are starting the year strong. This is the first of 5 events that we have planned for this year. And so reach out to us if you want to start 2025 on the right foot. And we have the marketing services available to give you and your company the global reach that you're looking for.
And I also see that we have Barcelona, Spain, Istanbul, Turkey, and Jacksonville, Florida joining us. So welcome, everyone. And each year, the Consumer Electronics Show, or also known as CES, takes place in Las Vegas, setting the stage for what tech innovations will be dominant in the year ahead. And this year was no different. And Johannes and I were amongst the 140,000 plus attendees. And I'm always very surprised by the new advancements on display and announcements being made. And it's always great to connect with those in the tech ecosystem. What did you think of the show, Johannes?
The CES is always great, Tiffany. It's a great show. And there is a lot of IoT, definitely this year at the show. And this year, the CES showcased the increasing integration of AI into our daily lives and the groundbreaking advancements in AI, robotics, smart home technology, and health and wellness, and a lot more.
And we'll be mentioning CES several more times throughout the broadcast, but I see we also have Taiwan in the audience and Orlando, Florida. So welcome, everyone. And let's go ahead and start jumping into our trends. And without a doubt, the biggest, most life-changing trend that we recognize is artificial intelligence. But that's still a bit too broad. So to start things off, we're going to start with our first trend by talking about AI agents. And AI agents are specific tools designed for defined tasks, often with limited autonomy. And examples could include virtual assistants, a fitness app, or a stock trading bot. But let's pause there. Johannes, can you tell us more about AI agents?
So yes, Tiffany, this year we'll see the first wave of AI agents coming to the market. And this initial deployment will be driven by the innovators, including researchers, tech enthusiasts, and pioneering companies eager to test and refine this groundbreaking technology. Depending on the complexity, AI agents can execute simple rules-based tasks or make even autonomous decisions involving sophisticated predictive and analytical capabilities. This is going to be a very interesting year, Tiffany.
Thanks, Johannes. I would definitely agree. And AI agents are autonomous systems that can solve complex systems or complex problems, while generative AI creates content based on user input. And AI agents can use generative models to perform actions such as compiling data and sending it to a recipient. Johannes, is there anything that you'd like to add about Gen AI and how you anticipate it will be a trend this year?
Well, Gen AI has gained traction in the past couple of years and maintains its momentum. And for 2025, we'll see specialized domain models. AI researchers and developers are now focusing on refining smaller, specialized models that excel in targeted tasks such specialization allow businesses to integrate AI solutions tailored to specific industries, whether it be finance, healthcare, or legal services. We also see expanded multimodal capabilities. All the models out there will add more multimodal capabilities. And we expect enterprise adoption and integration. Companies have been piloting Gen AI for data analysis, customer service, and product design. This year marks a tipping point for production scale deployments, with industries integrating AI solutions into daily operations.
Thanks, Johannes. And now let's look at agentic AI, a broader paradigm enabling systems to adapt, learn, and make decisions within a defined scope. So, agentic AI refers to autonomous generative AI agents that can complete complex tasks and meet objectives with little or no human supervision. As its name suggests, agentic AI has agency, the ability to act and to choose which actions to take. Agentic AI is different from today's chatbots and co-pilots, which themselves are often called agents. These goals are set by humans, but the agents determine how to fulfill the goals. And Deloitte predicts that in 2025, 25% of companies that use Gen AI will launch agentic AI pilots or proofs of concept, growing to 50% in 2027. And some agentic AI applications in some industries and for some use cases could see actual adoption into existing workflows in 2025, at least the back half of the year. Johannes, do you feel that agentic AI is ready for adoption?
Well, Tiffany, this is a complex question. We could spend an entire summit discussing technological readiness, regulatory or legal readiness, and so on. So let me answer it in a different way. Agentic AI will likely follow the diffusion of innovation model, which means that innovators will adopt this technology first. They will test and refine it. So we initially expect a niche adoption. Once the innovators give their stamp of approval, agentic AI will then be picked up by the early adopters, leading to more widespread adoption. So ready or not, agentic AI is coming.
Thanks, Johannes. And one thing that I feel is important to consider is ethical AI. And ethical AI is artificial intelligence that adheres to well-defined ethical guidelines regarding fundamental values such as individual rights, privacy, non-discrimination, and non-manipulation. And I feel we're at an inflection point where ethical AI has to become a priority. What are your thoughts on ethical AI, Johannes?
Ethical AI is incredibly important, Tiffany, especially as we stand at this turning point this year. When I talk about ethical AI, I mean developing these systems with clear moral and legal guidelines in mind, protecting values like individual rights, ensuring privacy, avoiding discrimination, and preventing manipulation. By taking this proactive approach, we not only safeguard against harm, but we also build trust within the public and lay the groundwork for truly sustainable innovation. As AI becomes increasingly integrated in our everyday lives and decision-making processes, balancing technological progress with ethical responsibility is more critical than ever. Ultimately, embracing ethical AI is all about creating a future where technology genuinely serves humanity while upholding our core values.
Thanks, Johannes. And with that, on a similar topic, our next guest is going to tell us about trustworthy AI. Let's hear more about it now. Hello, everyone. I'm Tiffany Nielsen, and you're watching the 2025 Emerging Trends Forecast. And our next guest is Barnes Lamb, the principal at the Strategy Pitch. How are you today, Barnes?
I'm doing fantastic, Tiffany. How are you doing today?
I'm amazing. Thank you so much for joining us again. It's always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here today with you.
Amazing. So, Barnes, can you start off by telling us a little bit about trustworthy AI?
Absolutely. I think that as we are using AI every day, I'm sure some of our audiences actually, have used ChatGPT. A lot of information coming out from it. I have no idea in terms of, how being used and how do you trust them. And businesses and school and everyone are using it. So trustworthy AI is being, it had to be fair, had to be clear, has to be follow the rule, had to be responsible. This makes sure that the AI is being used in a good way and treat everyone fairly.
And Barnes, who exactly uses trustworthy AI and how does it help mitigate bias?
Absolutely. I think that we can, everybody, even my daughter is using, ChatGPT. So it's really all walks of life, from business company to government and public services, social, school and researchers and, nonprofit organizations. So, there's a lot of people using it. Now, the question is, how are you using it? And I can give you some example. For business and company perspective, they use AI, like LinkedIn, for instance. For some of you are using LinkedIn to find jobs, and you see a lot of AI tabs in there. They'll ask you, "Am I good fit?" And it's just that a lot of companies using AI to do a matching, to do a lot of work in there, and we want to make sure that AI is being fair and doesn't make any mistakes, and they kind of follow a set of rules that allow us to be able to ensure that it's fair, no bias. From the government perspective, obviously they are using AI to make policy or suggestion of policy and the impact of it, and like healthcare and law enforcement. And they want to make sure that everyone is treated fairly on this. Public service, obviously is one of the hot topics right now. If profiling now even use AI, and I'm sure some of you, see the police have do a scanner, and they use AI to actually do matching. Quite a bit of stuff that they have been using. School and researcher, I mean, that is another sectors where a lot of researchers are using AI to develop new technologies, make a technology is a bit more fair and doesn't have any hidden bias. I think that's a part that worry me the most and worry a lot of people the most, is that how you set the rules for it. And that's a part that I think is important, that we have transparency in there. Nonprofit organization using it obviously in a different manners that ensure that they don't discriminate. They treat everyone equally. So these are only some of the sector of the market, all walk of the market, like people are using it. But they are not stopping there. There are a lot of people using it a different way. And the question is that, how do I trust it? How do I ensure that it's actually work the way that it's supposed to?
That's a great question, Barnes. How do we know that it's trustworthy? And right now in Davos, the World Economic Forum is meeting, and one of the key risks under discussion is the vulnerability of governments, businesses, and society to AI generated fake narratives. And so, with that, Barnes, that means right now they may be discussing this very next trend at this very moment. And so, that trend is disinformation security and the tools and technologies to defend against disinformation. Can you tell us more about this?
Absolutely. I think the part that really missing from a lot of AI development is absolutely as clear, understandable framework explaining how AI making decisions. It's really missing right now. If you look at everybody and just coming out of some of the data, and you have no idea what the data is coming from and what set of data is actually input in the system, and all decision coming out is only like, oh, this is what the AI actually telling you, but it didn't really help you in terms of decipher, in terms of is it a real information, is it how the information actually is going to utilize in what way. And the important part of the input of those data is really, where's the data coming from? How, is that, in certain way, you have to have some authentications, make sure it's not biased, make sure it's fair. I think that's a part that, is no one know. I mean, if you look to ChatGPT or any other AI platform, you have no idea if the data is come from what source, how old is the data, and is there any check and balance in there? It's nothing at this point. So I think that trustworthy AI is going to be a very hot topic in terms of, especially we are relying on them more and more. And you have to follow some ethical rules. I mean, it has to be auditable. You have to be just like accounting, right? You have to have some audit in terms of data and how that being sent out and being treated, and how people utilize it, how people make decision out of it. I think that's a part. I mean, I use AI for purely research perspective. I still have to verify the data, verify the information coming out. Is it make sense, or is it kind of skewed in one way? It's a lot of time that you have to really think about it before you actually talk to somebody else or you propagate that into a different format. And one part is very important as well is that you have to have some way to escalate. If the information is not correct, how are you going to escalate this? How are you going to change it? Just like customer complaint, you have to have some way to talk to somebody about the data coming out because someone else is using it. Someone else is using those data, and how are you going to make decision, and how are you going to affecting you as a whole? And I think that we also need to check the data more regularly as well.
Thank you, Barnes. And I kind of have a bonus question for you here. So we talked a little bit about ethical AI. How is ethical AI different than trustworthy AI?
Ethical AI and trustworthy AI is two different things. Because trustworthy AI is about the data itself. You don't know whether or not it's ethical or not ethical. The data, it could be coming out and without absence of any context in terms of what the background is all about. You have no idea if those information is actually biased or not biased. You have no idea. You have to put some context around it and allow you to figure out, okay, if that's solution coming out or that particular data coming out, allow you to make what type of recommendation or what kind of conclusion out of it. And data itself is only by itself. It's just okay, data, right? I mean, you spit out data from your internet, and without any comparison or any data set allow you to compare or to apply to it, you have no idea whether or not it's biased, not biased at this point.
Thanks, Barnes. And since trustworthy AI is something that you specialize in, how can you help businesses to overcome some of these challenges?
Is really talk about the is allow us to have a someone with organizations really take the information seriously. There's a usually rest with the CIO office where they will have a position where they're going to audit data coming into a system. And eventually you will see a lot of companies have their own AI platform. It's like a search engine, but it's geared toward their own use. So sometimes you will see that trend coming. Is just that rather than just ChatGPT, you will have their own AI. That's a search engine allow you to search information based on that particular background or information coming from it. So from a data perspective, you have to have somebody within the office allow you to put an audit in there, like a procedures where you have data that allow you to authenticate. Are these data real? How real are those data? And are they give you the right perspective? Would the data be open for audit? And I think that you will see, the big four accounting firm will come up with a set of rules that allow you to ensure the authenticity of the data makes sense.
Thank you so much, Barnes. And obviously, this is a hot topic. People are interested in it. They want your services. They're calling you on the phone right now. So if you need Barnes' help, feel free to reach out to him. I'm sure you can reach him on LinkedIn. And I think that's all we have time for today. But thank you so much for joining me today, Barnes.
Thank you, Tiffany, for the invitation. And anything that, any questions, more than happy to address that.
Wonderful. Have a great day, everyone. And welcome back. And thank you so much for dropping some notes in the chat. I see that we've got San Diego, California, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, freezing South Dakota. So feel free, drop us a note. Let us know where you're watching from. We love hearing from you. And those were some great insights that Barnes shared on trustworthy AI and ethical AI and disinformation security. So, Johannes, what did you think of Barnes' interview?
Well, first of all, Tiffany, great interview and absolutely great interviews from Barnes. Now, imagine a world where every AI system or agent strictly follows clearly defined ethical and legal guidelines, operating safely, predictably, and without bias or discrimination. Now, while that sounds like common sense, we haven't reached that stage yet, in part because our ethical and legal framework are still evolving. Still, we rely on AI systems daily, trusting them even as we work through these challenges. So, two important points. As users, we need to stay vigilant, and the journey towards truly trustworthy AI is going to be a long uphill battle.
Thanks, Johannes. And hello to Tuscany, Italy. We've got all over the globe today, so amazing. And I totally agree with you, Johannes. And indeed, it will be an uphill battle because AI systems are innately flawed because they were built by humans and thus they were built with bias. And it'll be extremely difficult to completely remove bias from their programming. And the convergence of AI with other advanced technologies creates both opportunity and risk. Just as AI can be used to create disinformation, it can also be used to defend against disinformation. So we'll see these challenges evolve, but we'll also see challenges as AI integrates with IoT. And our next guest is going to tell us more about AIoT and that integration. Hello, everyone. You're watching IoT Marketing's 2025 Emerging Trends Forecast. I'm Tiffany Nielsen, and joining me is Scott Gerard, the founder and Chief AI Officer of Knowledge Reactor. How are you today, Scott?
I'm great, Tiffany. How are you?
I'm fantastic. And Scott, as we get started, can you tell us a little bit about your background and your role at Knowledge Reactor?
Sure. I've been in the IT industry for many, many years, had a lot of experiences, a lot of different projects. I'm currently the Chief AI Officer at Knowledge Reactor, where we like to help clients marry their AI into their IoT products. It's called an AIoT is the term that we're using for it.
And thank you for clarifying that. Can you tell us more about AIoT and maybe provide a few examples?
Sure. What AIoT is, it's AI plus IoT. And so we're bringing the benefits of IoT, which is bridging the physical and virtual worlds together, with the benefits of AI, which is bringing the ability to intelligently understand what's going on in the physical world and then making decisions about what actions to do next. So that's kind of the theoretical part of it. The classic example for AIoT is anomaly detection and predictive maintenance. It's a very valuable use case. Basically, what it does is the device watches another device, and when that other piece of equipment starts acting weird, then the AI says, let's perhaps issue some commands to change how that piece of equipment is working, and or it can send some notifications to operations to come take a look at it in a little bit more detail.
Perfect. Thank you, Dr. Scott. And what trends are you seeing for AIoT in the coming year?
Well, in general for 2025, I'm predicting a movement away from the massive hype that we've seen the last couple of years. So dial back the hype and dial up the practical results. I think that's what the next couple of years are going to be about. We've had a lot of hype about generative AI and stuff. Let's just get practical for a while. So given that, I do see that there's a continued movement of AI down toward the edge. The hardware for AI is getting cheaper and consumes less power, and it's going to make us less dependent on the cloud. One of the big reasons for this is in 2024, we all knew about the CloudStrike episode. Now, did CloudStrike screw up when they issued their change? Of course they did. The problem is we've all made those kind of mistakes, so they're going to happen again in the future. What we need to do is to increase edge reliability to support more offline operations. So be able to divorce your edge environment from the cloud environment. Weird stuff can happen up in the cloud, but you want to be able to keep your edge environment running reliably. My friend calls it armadillo mode. So if the cloud just completely goes away, you can run for up to 72 hours and still be self-sufficient. So I think that's a good trend for people to be thinking about.
Thanks, Dr. Scott. That's great advice. And how about Gen AIoT? Are companies actually using this and seeing its value?
There's a lot of talk about it. Some people are. Like I said, I see kind of a retrenchment for these LLMs in particular in the next couple of years. We've all seen the hype. They do amazing things, but they also have problems. So let's just be realistic about all of that. So when it comes to generative AI at the edge, does it make sense to put computer vision out on every edge device? Yeah, if you've got the hardware. I mean, sending a lot of video data over hopefully wireless networks is very expensive and consumes a lot of bandwidth. So processing at the edge makes a lot of sense. But what about LLMs in particular? I don't really see LLMs playing a huge role in the device IoT as much as some other people see it. If you've got multiple devices in some local IoT system, do you really want to put an LLM on every one of those devices? I don't think so. I suggest you put an LLM on one device somewhere locally so that you can get to it, but route all the NLP processing there. Text is much less bandwidth intensive than video data is, right? So just send the text over to the LLM. All of the devices send it there if they need to. The LLM processes and sends it all back. So I think IoT is more independent of LLMs than probably some other people do, but it's still valuable in certain use cases.
Thank you, Dr. Scott. There are so many acronyms where it's Gen AIoT. I'm like, well, we have to talk about it because people are talking about it, but are people really using it? Thank you for clearing that up for us. And Dr. Scott, are there any other trends that you'd like to cover today?
Just a couple. And again, this is trying to get practical. A lot of new regulations are coming online. There's the EU Data Act. The EU AI Act was passed last year, about 6 months ago. There's a lot of other regulations coming from both federal and state levels. The world is changing when it comes to regulations, and I think people need to be fully aware, when they may be stepping on some of those regulations and make sure that they're compliant with it. So that's about the regulations. The other one is the whole quantum cryptography thing. A lot of people talk about how cool it is and all that stuff. Yes, it is cool. The part that I'm a little bit more concerned about is there's a phrase called Y2Q day, or sometimes Q day, and this is supposed to be the day sometime in the future. We don't exactly know when, but that's when large-scale quantum computing will be available. The people I talk to, and I agree with this, it's probably 5 to 10 years away, but none of us really know. But you need to plan for it now in two specific ways, I think. One of them is when you're building your IoT device now, you're expecting it to last 5, 10, 15 years. You need to make sure that you can upgrade the security software on your device to use post-quantum cryptography when it becomes available. NIST's got 4 algorithms out there. They're still kind of being evaluated. I think it's a little early to put them in now, but you need to be prepared to do that, because after Q day, if all you have is existing encryption technology, your devices are basically going to be worthless. No one's going to want to buy, cryptography that can be broken. And the second thing is, do you have data now that you're encrypting and you think that's going to be safe and you don't want it to be read in the next 5 or 10 years? Well, all I have to do is to copy your encrypted data today. I can't do anything with it because I don't have quantum cryptography now either. But in 10 years or in Q day, I will be able to read it. So the data that you are encrypting now could be easily read in the future. So that's another thing to kind of be thinking about. Those are kind of my two practical recommendations for future IoT devices.
Wow, that's wild, Dr. Scott. I hadn't even considered that. I mean, I've been doing my quantum research, but I hadn't quite gone down that path yet. Wow, wow, wow. Well, now you
I,
know.
I, and that's the point. Everybody's talking about how cool all this stuff is, but we need to be realistic about the problems that are also coming up.
Q Day. Well, I'm not sure when that'll be, but it's coming. So we have to be ready. All right.
Right.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Scott. Are there any other final words for our audience?
I just continue to believe that AI and IoT are a combination made in heaven. They're going to have huge business values. And we at Knowledge Reactor love talking with clients about that to find new and novel ways to put AI into IoT products. So contact us. We've also got some free downloads on our website. Check those out. Let us know if you'd like to talk more.
Perfect. Thank you, Dr. Scott. And thank you, everyone, for watching. We'll have you back again soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Tiffany.
And welcome back. It's always so great to hear from Dr. Scott. What did you think of his interview, Johannes?
Well, Tiffany, he offers great perspectives and great insights. And I would just like to highlight a couple or repeat a couple of them. One is the autonomous edge, and the second one is Q-Day. I think that's a term that we'll be talking about more in the future. But step by step, year after year, we are advancing towards the autonomous edge, where devices can function independently, even with a cloud connection, whether for a short or extended period of time. And then second, yes, let's start preparing for Q-Day, which is the moment when quantum computers in power surpass digital computers. It's time to prioritize quantum encryption because this shift is expected to occur within the next 5 to 10 years.
Thanks, Johannes. It's really not that far away, so we have to be ready. And 2025 is said to be a transformative year for cybersecurity as post-quantum cryptography across industries moves from theory into practice. And while we're on the topic of quantum, let's talk about quantum computing for a moment. For nearly 30 years, one of the fundamental roadblocks for quantum computing has been reliability. As quantum systems add more qubits, or the quantum equivalent of a classical bit, they tend to become more error-prone. But Google's new quantum chip, Willow, may be changing that, as it's designed to reduce errors exponentially as it scales up its qubits. And during CES 2025, NVIDIA's Jensen Huang expressed optimism about quantum computing's potential, but cautioned that practical applications may be another 15 to 30 years to materialize. And Mark Zuckerberg's comments on the Joe Rogan podcast echoed that of CEO Huang, saying that, which also led to a sharp decline in quantum computing stocks. And despite the cautious predictions, some industry insiders have countered Huang's views, arguing that quantum-based innovations are already being integrated into the tech ecosystem. In fact, researchers at Northwestern University in Evanston, Illinois, have developed fiber optic technology capable of teleporting quantum information through the same lines that also carry conventional data traffic. And the United Nations has declared 2025 as the International Year of Quantum Science and Technology, celebrating a century of research and innovation in the field. And to our audience, what do you think of quantum? Let us know your feedback in the chat. And I think that quantum may be closer than we think. What do you think, Johannes?
I think you're onto something, Tiffany. Quantum computing may be closer than many people believe. NVIDIA's Jensen Huang may caution that fully mature quantum applications could be 15 to 30 years away, and I don't want to argue with that, but we are already seeing remarkable breakthroughs. The one that you mentioned, research at the Northwestern University demonstrated quantum teleportation. By the way, Scotty and Kirk are going to be jealous about this. And Northwestern did it over standard fiber optic lines, which hints at early practical uses. Plus, as you mentioned, the United Nations has declared 2025 International Year of Quantum Science and Technology, which again highlights that the progress that's happening, and there is a lot of progress happening right now. The tension lies between the complexity of scaling, and that's what all the big companies, IBM and Google, are currently struggling with, the hardware, But that doesn't take away the fact that researchers are making real strides here. In my view, excitement is warranted based on the progress that's being reported. Quantum is indeed on a faster track than many skeptics expected, and we'll likely see more interim milestones that shape our tech ecosystem well before the end of this decade.
Thanks, Johannes. And while quantum is really pushing the cutting edge, let's hear from Pete Bernard on Edge AI. Hello, everyone. You're watching the 2025 Emerging Trends Forecast. I'm Tiffany Nielsen, and our next guest is Pete Bernard. And Pete is the Executive Director of the Edge AI Foundation and an expert member of the World Economic Forum's AI Governance Alliance. Thank you for joining us, Pete. How are you today?
Very good. Thanks, Tiffany. Really excited to be here.
We're excited to have you. And AI is creating such a massive impact across most industries. And your focus is on Edge AI. And it was TinyML, which is turning into more Edge AI. But can you tell our audience more about Edge AI and why you feel it will be a significant trend in the year ahead?
Yeah, I mean, we refer to Edge AI as like AI in the real world, which is a little bit tongue in cheek, but it's true. It's AI that's happening where the data is created. So it's, happening in water systems and agriculture and medical equipment and manufacturing floors and retail stores and transportation. So anywhere you see AI workloads or AI code running, where the data is created, we consider that Edge AI. And as you mentioned, TinyML is a part of that. Neuromorphic computing is a part of that. Analog AI, physical AI. There's lots of different kind of terms and permutations, but essentially it's AI in the real world, and it's just an exploding area of expertise and business.
Thanks, Pete. And there's a lot of attention in moving the processing to the edge, but what happens if we don't move processing to the edge?
Yeah, well, I mean, the horse is a bit out of the barn on that one because the computing, there's a gravitational pull toward the edge. They say that all AI projects start in the cloud, but sort of get commercialized on the edge because people want to have more control over the data, more privacy, faster response, lower cost. And so that's why, data tends to gravitate toward the edge. That being said, the cloud itself, there's lots of processing you could do on the cloud and like the high performance training and other things like that. I think the edge is kind of uniquely qualified for some of the things I talked about, especially like low latency. Good example, like a pedestrian camera, a camera for pedestrian safety. That's not something that you would send the video back up to the cloud to process to say, hey, is someone walking into the street? Or things on the manufacturing line or things in healthcare. So you really need to have that kind of high performance. Let's run AI where the data is created, and having it all in the cloud is not really a good choice.
Thanks, Pete. And can you tell us how AIoT and Gen AIoT can be performed at the edge?
Yeah, so AIoT, Edge AI. I mean, I mentioned before there's these different terms that people use to run AI models and AI workloads on edge equipment, and that equipment could be sensors. That equipment could be cameras, could be gateways with a bunch of things plugged into it, could be point of sale registers where you're doing self checkout, cameras and things like that. And so AIoT, Gen AIoT, Gen Edge AI, there's all these different ways of talking about it. But one of the cool things, as you mentioned, is like running generative AI on the edge is a very hot topic. And we actually recently had a big 2-day seminar on that. We had about 900 people show up just with talks from around the world on what's happening to run transformer-based models on edge equipment. We saw some of that at CES. I think we'll see a lot more next year as well. People are able to run these generative AI and transformer models in smaller and smaller footprints. They typically are not TOPS bound as much as memory bound. So you're seeing a lot of advancements in high performance memory subsystems on edge equipment. That's really important. You're seeing much lower power being used to run some of these AI models. You think about running a generative AI in the cloud on like an NVIDIA, H100 or a Blackwell that's using, 1,000, watts or megawatt of energy or something like that to run these things. And you're talking about running it in milliwatts on the edge. And so that's kind of an exciting premise there, is that can you actually run some of these generative AI models for language, for example, and language interpretation of data on edge equipment.
Thanks, Pete. And can you also tell us how Edge AI is enabling some of the advancements that we're seeing in robotics?
Yeah, robotics is like a really, really fascinating. I want to try the right word. It's not even industry vertical, but it's a whole technical area there. That's, it's got two parts to it. There's robots that are like functional robots, and they're actually around and working today in a lot of warehouses, and moving pallets around, and doing like a lot of important work that otherwise would be very difficult or dangerous to do. You could even argue that many drones are robots essentially doing visual inspection and things like that. The other part of robotics is humanoid robots, and that tends to get a lot of press, and we all as a society kind of have the fear of humanoid robots taking over. And if you go back to like the 1927 film Metropolis, which I encourage people to see, it was a silent film, and the premise was, these robots are going to take over. So even back then, 100 years ago, we had a fear of humanoid robots. And so whenever there's stories about humanoid robots, especially ones that have generative AI capabilities now, it kind of freaks people out. And it's what I would consider AI theater as opposed to AI reality. But robotics itself, that whole field, is really benefiting from higher performance AI models running on the edge, higher performance silicon, lower power, because, most of these robotic systems are battery powered. And running multiple models, running transformer models and CNN models and other models together on the same platform to accomplish certain tasks. So, all the advancements that are happening on the edge and happening in AI are really benefiting the whole robotics industry.
Thanks, Pete. And another trend that we want to highlight is energy efficient computing, which we will talk more about during our Green Things Summit coming up in April. But how does Edge AI incorporate energy efficient computing?
Yeah, well, I mean, the idea behind Edge AI is really about efficiency. Can you run AI workloads and solve a problem with, not only less cost, but less power, which in some cases means the same thing. Some of the semiconductor capabilities, going down to, single nanometers. You look at Qualcomm Snapdragons and NXP and Olive Semiconductor and all these folks that are doing cool things on super low power chips. They're running AI workloads there that are really designed to be battery powered. But even if they're not battery powered, you're still consuming less power. So imagine if you're hooking up this equipment in your quick serve restaurant, or in your manufacturing facility, you want to use, the least amount of power to get the job done, and keep your energy bills low, and maybe even be self-sustaining on your energy. So that's a really key aspect of Edge AI. The other part of Edge AI that's important, when we talk to like municipalities about, safety and security, is deployment. So you think about deploying cameras and other Edge AI equipment out there. You don't want to have to run power cables. Just like you don't want to run an Ethernet cable either. So can you take like a camera and post it to a post and have it solar powered and self powered and have it wirelessly connected? And then your deployment costs are essentially zero, because you're not tearing up the sidewalk and you're not running cables. So it's really important to make sure we can run AI workloads on batteries and on solar power and other kind of renewables, so that we drive the deployment costs way down and give people the opportunity to deploy this technology, not only on light poles, but, farm fields and in the wilderness for wildlife protection and stream monitoring and all kinds of other things where, there's no AC outlet, obviously.
Thanks, Pete. And you mentioned another trend that we're following, which is neuromorphic computing. So can you tell us more about that and maybe provide some examples of how we might see it be used in the coming year?
Yeah, neuromorphic is a really interesting, again, subset of Edge AI, really designed around like how the brain processes, data. And there are a number of companies that are really innovating in that space. I mean, there's like BrainChip and Inotera. IBM. But neuromorphic computing really kind of mimics the brain's behavior and how it processes the data. And what that results in is very high performance execution and also very low power. So it's not applicable to everything, but to many instances where you need very low latency processing of AI and very low power, neuromorphic computing is really fascinating. And there are chips out there, there are platforms out there. It's still early in the business, but people are deploying it, and we have partners in our community that are doing an incredible job on it. And if you go out on the web, there's all kinds of research and talks about neuromorphic computing. I expect it to be, in fact, we just started a working group on neuromorphic computing within our foundation because there's so much interest in it.
Thanks, Pete. And we'll be covering the Internet of Things a little bit more later in today's event. But for now, can you share with us your thoughts on the societal impact of IoT?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we can see the impact of IoT and edge AI and edge computing in big and small, cities and towns around the world, just in the critical infrastructure space, the ability to instrument water systems, as I mentioned, or agriculture, or any of these critical infrastructure systems to understand what's happening there and how to make them better and more efficient has a huge impact. And the nice thing about edge AI is that it's designed to be low cost and low power. So even in a very small rural community, they can use sensors and cameras and other things to improve crop yields and improve safety and security and other things that's happening. So you don't need a giant data center to do AI. You can do it for less than $10 in a small plastic box, and you can pick up a Raspberry Pi board or an Arduino kit or any number of super low cost platforms to do it. So I think it has a real democratization effect, where not only can anyone learn it and get their hands on it and understand it, but it can be deployed at big scale and also in local communities as well. So it really is, and as it becomes more and more capable with generative AI, it's really going to open up some fascinating solutions for communities around the world.
Thanks, Pete. And that kind of leads into another trend that we're following, which is low power wireless. And so, Pete, I mean, how much less power are these devices using? And is there anything you'd like to share on that trend?
Well, yeah. So, edge computing and IoT are inherently connected platforms, right? They could be, locally connected to some servers, but ultimately cloud connected. And so the connectivity is a factor, and so are the ability to move workloads to these devices and do the ML ops necessary to orchestrate all this stuff. So low power connectivity is definitely an enabling technology for edge AI. To get these things connected consistently over long distances, that can also run on battery power is super complementary. So you look at like LoRaWAN, or even some of the 5G RedCap stuff, and other ways of connecting them where you're sending a little bit of data a long way and on very low power. So think about it like instead of sending as I mentioned before, the pedestrian safety example, instead of sending like a video stream over wireless, which kind of makes no sense, for monitoring, why not have the video stream processed locally in the camera and then just send the metadata and the events back over a very thin pipe over low power wireless back to the cloud. Same with any kind of equipment monitoring or telemetry that you would have. You're not sending the full stream of data, you're processing the data there, and then you're sending the signals and the metadata back. And that enables you to use a much thinner pipe to go longer distances for less cost and less power. So it's sort of like, I would say edge AI and low power wireless are like peanut butter and chocolate, right? They're two great things that go great together.
Peanut butter and chocolate. I guess I know what you like on your Sunday.
You
And I'm glad that you tied in RedCap, which is another trend that we plan to cover. Is there anything else you'd like to say about RedCap for our audience that may be unfamiliar with the term?
Well, I mean, it's just, when you think about connectivity, one the way I think about it is there's licensed and unlicensed connectivity, right? So you've got the unlicensed, typically Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, LoRaWAN, There's spectrum allocated per region, per country for that sort of thing. And then you have licensed spectrum, right, which is typically controlled by telecommunication companies, local operators, AT&T or Vodafone or whoever. And within that licensed spectrum, there's, standards for communicating like 5G or 6G. And so an NB-IoT, and there's these various things. If you look up 3gpp.org, you can spend all day and all night reading those specs. But 5G RedCap is an attempt by licensed spectrum providers, right, like telecoms, to provide that kind of low cost, low bandwidth, low power connectivity. So it is definitely a good option to have. In some cases, I always tell people, you have to choose the right connectivity for the right solution, just like you choose the right AI for the right solution. So having that option and making it robust and cost efficient is always a good thing.
Thanks, Pete. And my last question is that since IoT has hit some headwinds in terms of complexity, how do you think Edge AI will avoid the same challenges? And what's different this time around?
Yes. So this is one of my themes is, how do we go beyond the edge? Back, maybe 20 years ago, we had this thing called embedded systems, right? These were headless devices that did something, a single function, typically code running on bare metal, and they weren't updatable. They weren't connected to anything, right? You built it, you shipped it, tested it, and hopefully it worked. And if it didn't work, well, you just have to replace it. So that was embedded systems. And then, we had the internet coming, and so people said, well, I can connect this embedded system to the internet, and I can take this funky, weird thing, and I can put like a HTTPS connection to it or something like that, and eventually MQTT and other protocols. So you started having these funky, very funky things connected to a cloud, and it was hard, right? And it was very difficult because of the heterogeneity of these devices and the fact that a lot of them were bare metal or, weird Linux distros and stuff like that. All good, but, very heterogeneous, very different, and trying to get them all to connect to the cloud and send data up in some coherent fashion. And then also, how do you manage them from the cloud and, update firmware, for example, what we call FOTA, which is a 4-letter word, by the way, FOTA. And that was IoT, and it's been hard. And I think we've all struggled with it. It's struggled to scale. It's struggled to be secure. There's a billion deployments out there, which is great, but it's taken a great effort. And so the question is, well, how does Edge AI avoid that sort of friction? And I think what's really different about Edge AI is that it's not happening from like the metal and device on up. It's happening from the cloud on down. So Edge AI is happening from AI in the cloud and using a lot of those frameworks and optimizing them and getting them to work in these edge devices. So you're talking about, very similar frameworks for developing models, and you're talking about Onyx frameworks for portability, and you're talking about cloud DevOps for container-based orchestration, K8s, K3s, micro EJ, et cetera. And you're talking about ML ops. And so a lot of it is very cloud oriented. So for Edge AI to work, and this is one of the reasons why I think it is working, is that it inherits a lot of techniques and technologies that have been developed in the cloud that are very scalable, that are very standardized. If not an IEEE standard, it's certainly a standard practice and best practice for cloud DevOps and ML ops that are now reaching down to the edge. So I think that's why you're going to see Edge AI scaling a lot faster than IoT, because it's coming from the cloud on down as opposed to IoT, which came from the device on up.
Wow, Pete. I mean, you really break the information down so that it's understandable. Thank you so much for joining us today. That was a pleasure.
Sure. No, it's my pleasure. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, we look forward to seeing you again on one of our future virtual events. And again, thank you so much for your time today, Pete. You really do a brilliant job at relaying this information to our audience. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care.
Have a great day. Bye-bye. And welcome back. That was a fascinating conversation with Pete, and he brought up some great points about Edge AI, energy efficient computing, neuromorphic computing, and low power wireless, to name a few. What were your thoughts on Pete's interview, Johannes?
Well, it's a great story from Pete, first off, but it's amazing, Tiffany. A year ago, we were all wondering, can we put a Gen AI application on the edge? Now, fast forward 1 year, the answer is yes, we can. But not only that, edge AI has become synonymous with connectivity and low power in the past couple of years. And we are learning that we can run SLMs and LLMs on the edge, which is good for a voice user interface, for example. So the edge is getting more intelligent and more robust year after year.
Thanks, Johannes. And we have a question from the audience from Erin. She asks, does AI computing use more or less energy than a human brain? It uses more, and a lot more. If you're looking at like a laptop where AI computing is being done, it's hundreds of times more. If you're looking at a supercomputer, think millions of watts more. And there are efforts for AI computing to be modeled more like a human brain, and that's a push towards biological AI. But I don't quite think that we're there yet. But yes, it definitely uses a lot more. And when he mentioned low power wireless, I thought of ambient IoT. And I know we've highlighted ambient IoT in several of our IoT Marketing Live news broadcasts, and we saw several ambient IoT solutions at CES. Do you want to share with our audience, Johannes, a little bit about what ambient IoT is and why and how we'll see potential growth in the year ahead?
Well, sure, Tiffany. So ambient IoT refers to an emerging class of devices powered by ambient energy sources like light, motion, radio waves, which eliminates the need for traditional batteries. These smaller, maintenance-free devices are reshaping industries from supply chain tracking to smart home automation. Experts predict a significant growth in the year ahead, driven by advancements in Bluetooth low energy and energy harvesting technologies. So early adoption is focused on supply chains, where businesses demand real-time asset tracking. We've come a long way, like we're going to do real-time asset tracking and monitoring. And as the technology matures, new use cases in industrial and consumer markets are expected to unlock even greater potential. So stay tuned as ambient IoT redefines what's possible in connected technology.
Thanks, Johannes. And now let's hear from Joe Connellan for more insights as to what we'll see from IoT in the coming year. Hello, everyone. You're watching IoT Marketing's 2025 Emerging Trends Forecast. I'm Tiffany Nielsen, and joining me today is Joe Connellan of IoT Global Providers. Happy New Year, Joe. It was so good to see you at CES.
Tiffany, thank you, and it was so good to see you as well. It's been some time since we've seen one another, and you could probably tell from my voice, I apologize. I didn't make it out of CES once again without catching a little bug, so my apologies for my voice.
Oh, no, it sounds great. And luckily, I didn't have that happen last year. So step up from some of the years in the past when I have caught a bug. So thank you for joining us anyway. And Joe, I know you were out there representing one of your IoT design house partners, HAE Innovations, and you also had a guest spot at the Blues booth. Were there any common themes out there at CES 2025?
You know, it's just interesting that you said that, Tiffany. There are several common themes that I'm seeing with IoT design houses, especially through my partner HA Innovations while we're out there, and the Blues booth really had a tremendous amount of participation, people going through it. And if you'd like, I can name probably the top 5 of them that I saw out there.
Please do. That would be fantastic.
Well, I won't do it in order because I'll probably mess that up. But edge computing. The IoT design houses are increasingly incorporating edge computing into the process to process data close to the devices, reducing latency and bandwidth requirements. We have several designs that we're working on now we're doing that now. Really, what this does is it enables faster decision making, better security, lower operation costs, and especially in time-sensitive applications like autonomous systems or industrial IoT. Tiffany, number 2 would be AI-powered IoT solutions. AI and machine learning algorithms are becoming integral to IoT design, enabling predictive maintenance, anomaly detection, and advanced automation. This has been out there for quite some time, but really it's no longer bleeding edge or cutting edge. These are things that are being implemented as we speak, and I have several clients doing that as well. And really what it does is it enhances the intelligence and functionality of your IoT systems, and it allows smarter devices and more adaptive systems. Number 3, enhanced focus on security. This probably should be number 1. With the rise of IoT connected devices, cybersecurity is the top priority, leading to the development of robust encryption, secure boot, and device authentic solutions. you need to really ensure that you have an end-to-end data protection and compliance with regulatory standards like GDPR and HIPAA. This is really of the utmost importance and really was on everybody's mind. So that probably should have been number one. The fourth was sustainability and energy efficiency. Green IoT designs are gaining traction, focusing on energy efficient hardware, low power protocols, and sustainable materials. And really, what this does reduces the environmental footprint of our IoT systems and really caters to the eco consciousness clients of our industry, which is still something that is very, very important to not only us but the United States. Is one of our initiatives. And then the fifth one is interoperability and standardization. There's a growing push for the design that supports cross-platform capability and adherence to industrial standards like Matter, LoRaWAN, and Zigbee. They're all something that people are bringing up once again. And really what this does, it simplifies deployment, reduces integration of challenges, and ensures scalability to multi-vendor systems. And I should say there was one other thing that was a takeaway, and that was when I was invited to be that part of the Blues team at the Blues booth. Manufacturing in the U.S. came up multiple times. This seems to be of interest to many, many companies that they like their products to be both built here and manufactured here. So really, they're looking from concept to commercialization. So this is something that's on everybody's mind, is bringing things back to the U.S. for manufacturing.
Thanks, Joe. I really appreciate you sharing that with us. And I always love your insights and hearing your perspective. And I also love hearing that IoT is being approached to be more sustainable and green. And the interoperability and standardization, that's always been a struggle for IoT. So hopefully we'll see some progress there in the near future. And Joe, was there any chatter on 5G private networks?
Well, there was. It was another conversation when I walked the floor over at CES, and people wanted to talk about what's up next, and really 5G was the next trend. So I have a top five for that if you need that as well, Tiffany. I think it's important that we know what's out there, so I could tell you what's on everybody's mind.
Yes, please.
All right. So edge computing integration again. Private 5G networks are increasingly leveraging edge computing to bring computation power close to the device. So you see that trend on both sides of the house, right? And once again, it reduces the latency, enhances the privacy, enables real-time applications such as smart manufacturing and autonomous operation. It's a big deal, and it's trends that we see now on the IoT side and on the 5G side. This is interesting. I didn't know this as much. I had to look it up myself, but network slicing for customization. Businesses are adopting network slicing within private 5G to allocate specific bandwidth and performance matrix for critical applications. Makes complete sense once we talked about it. So it provides flexibility, enhanced reliability, and supports diverse use cases from low latency industrial control to high throughput video streaming. So it's very much similar to 5G that we've been doing on landlines for a long, long time. So it makes complete sense. IoT and IoT proliferation, I should say. The 5G networks are increasingly powering the IoT side of the house, especially in the industrial aspect of it. So the ecosystems there are enabling smart factories, predictive maintenance, and real-time monitoring. This is being done as we speak, and there's great strides in really taking that kind of ecosystem and enabling it even further. So, a lot of people think it might hurt the workforce, but it's really enhancing the workforce, being able to get more of the product out quicker. So it really drives operational efficiencies and supports large scale at a low latency device connectivity level. So it's a win-win for both. The fourth one is AI-driven network management. AI and machine learning are being integrated into that private 5G network, the autonomous network monitoring, as we talked about, which optimizes and anomaly detection. So it does both, right? So not only does it enhance the network reliability, it reduces downtime and simplifies management for business. So that's big there. So, you really need to take a look at that. And then focus on security and data sovereignty, right? Probably should be number one again. The private 5G networks are prioritizing robust security protocols and data sovereignty so they can comply with the regulatory requirements and protect sensitive information. And this really is a need because business needs to gain full control over their data while ensuring compliance and industrial standards and regulations that need to be held up within that industry. So those are the takeaways that I had on both of those trends, Tiffany. I appreciate you letting me share them. And CES, I thought was one of the better CESs that I've been to. Even though I got sick again, it was still great, and it was really, really great to see you.
Joe, it was so great to see you as well, and I really appreciate you coming on and participating in our event. And CES is so interesting because you've got such a diverse offering from so many different vendors and so many interesting products and solutions and services. And then to hear everyone's different takeaways on it, it's really unique. So hearing your perspectives on this was very valuable. So thank you so much, Joe, and we appreciate having you on our program. We look forward to having you back again soon. Any final shout out you'd like to do for
Yeah,
IoT Global or HAE?
I think if anybody else wants to connect or has something they want to discuss on design or on 5G, networks being installed, or if you're just starting something from a concept, we can take it from concept to commercialization. Please look me up either at jconlin at iotglobalproviders.com, or you could go to my website, iotglobalproviders.com. Tiffany, always appreciate you and your marketing team. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you for watching. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
And welcome back. It's always so great to have Joe on our program, and it's also great to see him at CES. What was your biggest takeaway from Joe's interview, Johannes?
Well, I was pleasantly surprised by the fact that Joe mentioned that there is a push amongst technology providers to reshore manufacturing to the United States. And of course, we know it's driven by supply chain security, national security, and the drive for innovation. So we've lived through the COVID year, so we've had the global disruptions. So we know the risk of extended supply chain. So moving production home reduces transit times and shield companies from geopolitical and pandemic-related delays. Producing critical technologies domestically not only protects sensitive innovation, but also lowers reliance on foreign suppliers, a trend which is that's supported by government incentives. So closer proximity speeds up innovation through better collaboration and rapid problem solving. Plus, reducing long-haul transportation cuts cost and lowers carbon emission. In short, reshoring is a smart move toward greater security, innovation, and sustainability. Looking forward to see that happen.
Thanks, Johannes. And I'm glad that Joe brought up security, as we're seeing governments like the US introduce stricter regulations like the Cyber Trust Mark. Announced on January 7th, the initiative addresses growing concerns about the cybersecurity vulnerabilities posed by connected devices like home security cameras, baby monitors, and voice-activated assistants. What other trends are you seeing for 2025 as far as security goes, Johannes?
We'll see more, and we can expect more AI-driven cybersecurity attacks, Tiffany. And I would like to add, especially on the edge, because there's so much attack surface available on the edge. So it's perfectly understandable that more and more organizations are adopting a zero trust security model, requiring continuous verification of every device attempting to access the network, even within their trusted ecosystem. And finally, secure management of IoT devices throughout their lifecycle, including provisioning, updates, and decommissioning, will become crucial to maintain security.
Thanks, Johannes. And Joe mentioned private 5G, but we're also seeing a lot of interest in 5G Advanced. And 5G Advanced will scale via continuous upgrades with an emphasis on software. What other benefits of 5G do you feel will drive adoption in 2025, Johannes?
Well, with 5G Advanced, we're moving beyond basic speed boosts into intelligent adaptive networking. The kind of innovation that will, and this is the kind of innovation that will drive the adoption in 2025. So it offers faster data rates, ultra low latency, and more reliable coverage, which are critical for demanding applications like real-time robotics, immersive extended reality, and advanced IoT. AI-driven network management will also help optimize resources and deliver better service quality across different industries. So this convergence of performance, intelligence, and reliability opens up new opportunities for businesses and consumers alike, setting the stage for significant growth in the coming year and innovation across healthcare, manufacturing, entertainment, and beyond.
Thanks, Johannes. And you mentioned immersive extended reality. And there's even a 5G advanced smart park experiment with China Telecom's Shanghai branch and ZTE, who have collaborated to leverage 5G technology, bringing immersive experiences for tourists and ushering in a new era for smart city parks. The Smart Park offers augmented reality park tours where virtual elements blend with real scenic spots, and you can follow an AR guide to discover secrets of uncommon plants or embark on a treasure hunt adventure. Let's hear more about immersive experiences from our next guests, Matthew Shavira and Anatola Araba. Hello, everyone. You're watching IoT Marketing's 2025 Emerging Trends Forecast. I'm Tiffany Nielsen, and joining me next, we have Matthew Shavira, the CEO of Profits of AI and Head of Strategic Partnerships for Hanson Robotics. How are you today, Matthew?
I'm doing excellent. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you.
I am too. So glad to have you back. And since Profits of AI centers around AI celebrities, Matthew has brought along Anatola Araba, an immersive experience designer and the founder of Reimagined Story Labs, who has recently been named Forbes 30 Under 30. Congratulations, Anatola, and thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
Thanks so much, Tiffany. Super excited to be here and have a really insightful conversation with you all.
Excellent. And Matthew, first of all, thank you again for joining us. So nice to have you back. And in dealing with AI celebrities, you pretty much live on the cutting edge. Can you quickly tell the audience more about Profits of AI?
Yeah, sure. So I founded Profits of AI following my work with Sophia the robot. And we can talk about that a bit later. But through working with Sophia, I saw this immense interest and fascination with the way AI is showing up in the world. And along this journey of Sophia, I met so many wonderful people who are actively shaping the field. And it provided a really amazing foundation by which I can found a company that's dedicated towards putting a spotlight on individuals who are kind of at the cutting edge, who are doing the most remarkable things in AI. And it's my great privilege to introduce to you one of those individuals in which I met along the way here today.
I'm so glad that you brought Anatola to join us. And Matthew, when I asked you what trend you see being most impactful in the year ahead, you said the convergence of art and AI, which is why you chose to bring Anatola. But why do you see this being a big trend in the year ahead?
Well, in representing so many different individuals who are involved in some way in AI and robotics, I have become acquainted with just like so many remarkable ways that people are using the technology. And for me, something that has always spoke to me is the application of art, because art as an enterprise is immensely important, just historically speaking, and all the way up to current trends. I mean, the earliest instance, to put it kind of in perspective, that we have as an example of human creativity actually is in art. 30,000 years ago, on the cave paintings in France, we find long before there was written language, right? We have examples of humans using art as a means to express their environment, make that connection to their past, tell a story. And we can follow this line leading through the Renaissance and all the things that happened there up into its current form, where people like Anatola are using artificial intelligence as a means of expression. And I think that AI specifically presents so many unique avenues by which that actually does show up, and some really impactful ones that touches on some of the most pressing issues in the field right now.
Thank you so much, Matthew. And Anatola, you're involved in some very unique projects, such as directing a cutting-edge virtual museum How are experiences like this fusing art and AI and art
Yeah,
and tech?
yeah, completely. Well, thank you so much. So I think that this intersection, this moment that we exist in now, with AI being able to enable and empower people's creativity, is very exciting. I didn't start in using AI to create art, but rather using art as a vehicle to critique AI systems. The 3D animated short film that I made explored issues of AI and bias because, as Matthew said, we have been creating stories and artworks throughout human history, from cave paintings to photography and film. And AI is certainly the next big evolution of this. And at the same time, we've also been facing certain biases and othering and dehumanization throughout history too. And new technologies like artificial intelligence are presenting this new era of the same oppression in a lot of ways as well.
Thank you. And Anatola, what role do you believe that art and storytelling plays in shaping societal values and narratives?
Mm-hmm. Well, I see art and storytelling as not simply forms of entertainment, but something that usually is first to the party. I remember talking to a lawyer about issues around IP and other elements around AI, and he was joking to me that law can sometimes be the last to the party as it's responding to culture and the things that people are bringing up in society. But people who create art and creatives are able to be the first responders that are at the forefront of issues and can be the first to the party when it comes to social and cultural change. And also, it's not just entertainment. I think that it's really powerful to be able to evoke wonder and awe in people and in adults, to bring back that sense of childlike joy, which we all need and is able to ignite our imaginations and enable us to play. But also, art and storytelling are able to create new innovations and build on real world things that are able to impact the real world. So I love speaking about how certain innovators are inspired or attribute their innovations to stories that they were told. People that dedicated their lives to inventing rocket ships and other impactful technologies were first inspired by a story. And that's why we see the inventions that we have today. So sometimes the greatest innovators are not simply geniuses, but they're people who just had the courage to imagine. And today, technologies like artificial intelligence are really bridging that gap so that imagination can be brought to life quicker than ever before.
I love it. I'm a huge fan of storytelling and art, so I love this piece. And let's talk more about your film, Afro Algorithms, and it explores AI and bias. But what inspired you to merge art with such critical technological theme, and how have you seen this issue evolve?
Yeah, that's a great question. I created Afro Algorithms being so fascinated by how AI was going to gain a larger and larger role in society, and thought that telling and exploring that through the story of an AI leader, something I thought was a very far out futuristic concept, started to
Yeah.
become closer and closer to reality each day. And so the story features a robot named Arrow and goes on a journey to find information that was missing from her databank, including the stories of the historically marginalized and oppressed. And I find it fascinating that while I wrote the story, I didn't think that these issues would become so prevalent so quickly. And fast forward to today, we actually did experience our first AI political candidate, which was Steve AI, that Matthew sent me the link of,
Yeah.
which is how I found out about it. So it was an AI chatbot it went hand in hand with a real candidate named Steve. And you can actually vote for Steve AI on the ballot. Luckily, this candidate received the least amount of votes for UK Parliament, so we still have a long way to go, but it just goes to show how fast people and this technology is evolving. But also, I'll say that Afro algorithms, even though it's a story about algorithmic bias and technology, at its core, it's also really a coming of age story. And I think that's why it's been able to resonate with people across the globe, because it's not just about innovation, but it's also a story of a girl finding her estranged father and going on a journey where she finds different perspectives that weren't a part of her life before. And that's really a personal story to me that was based around my own family and discoveries.
Thank you. And I want to get back to AI Steve here in just a second, but your film is also being sent to the moon. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes, for sure. So it was invited to be part of the Luna Prize Museum, which is a museum curated by Space Blue that was part of NASA's Commercial Lunar Services Payload Initiative. And so the project was engraved into an indestructible metal disc that was designed to last for 1 billion years on the moon. And I really didn't believe that this was even real. I wasn't sure if it was a scam at first as well. And when I was invited to be a part of it, it was initially the rocket ship was supposed to take off in March. And then it kept being pushed back month after month after month. And it was postponed for an entire year until it finally took off in February 2024. And after 8 days in space, it landed on the moon on February 22nd, which I think is fascinating because February 22nd is 2/22. The project Afro Algorithms takes place in the year 2220, and there are a total of 222 artists who are a part of this revolutionary Lunar Prize Museum. And I was given
Amazing.
artist number 222. So you really
Wow.
can't make this up.
It's amazing.
Anything you
Yeah,
wanted to
I
add,
have a
Matthew?
question for Anatola, if that's okay, Tiffany.
Yeah.
Algorithmic biases. Can you give an example of one, how it shows up in the world?
Of course, there are so many ways. I took inspiration from studies such as researcher Joy Bolamwini, who conducted a study out of the MIT Media Lab showing that facial recognition algorithms had the highest error rates for darker skinned faces, especially darker skinned women. So that is just one way that it's showing up in our society. And when I created the film, I was especially concerned with it being used with predictive policing, and how
Mm,
we have data sets because there's a disproportionate amount of people of color in the US prison system than in the population. So
mhm.
these algorithms are trained on faces of criminals that look a certain way, which can make us more susceptible and more vulnerable to algorithms putting people in prison. Or in job applications, algorithms that are just scanning people's resumes and then deny entry or deny even the right to interview to candidates because they have something that has to do with being a woman in their application. So those were
Mhm.
the things that I was concerned about. But the issues continue to evolve because even now, with the rise of generative AI, because the project came out before the release of ChatGPT, and generative AI is still showing biases. And when you type in a prompt, if you say type in a boy from Nigeria, it can have very stereotypical depictions of what that looks like. And
Yeah.
it has a skewed sense of representation for people across the African diaspora and on the continent.
Wow. Well, I know that AI has been in the process of being created for a long time, so maybe there's a lot that needs kind of relearned for the AI to not have that bias in place.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well,
Anything
it
else?
really comes down to data because the AI is trained on data, and data is essentially the fuel to these algorithms, just like gas is the fuel to cars. And there's a fascinating issue or juxtaposition when it comes to data today of how we want these algorithms to work equally for all different types of people, but for it to do that, it needs an equal amount of data. But the data that it is trained on was also just scraped or given without consent or compensation for them to this information. So while we want it to work for everyone, it's hard to say that we really want our data to be given to it without any data ownership or data sovereignty. So is it worth having algorithms not work properly for you when you can still claim ownership over your data? Or is it worth giving your data up for free so that the machines can see you properly? That's the question.
Interesting. And it kind of comes back to AI, Steve. Are we ready to have an AI in office if there's still these biases in place? I don't know. Anatola, another question for you. As technology evolves, how do you see the relationship between art and society of changing in the next decade?
Ooh, that's a good question. So much can happen in the next decade. When my art got sent to the moon, I became fascinated with other how space and space technology is evolving. And that's something that has been on my radar in terms of something that can impact and shape society in the next 10 years. But most of all, I hope that people are able to create more artful societies because we're in this era right now where so much has to be rebuilt. If you think of the wildfires in LA or other apocalyptic events that may happen in the next 10 years, we have to rebuild and reinvent and reimagine the way that we do everything. So I really hope for art to not just be a medium or an industry, but how integrated into the fabric of culture and into the fabric of cities that we live in. I would love to see cities that are built with more sustainable technology and resources. I'm fascinated by 3D printed homes and the potential for those to create more affordable housing and also to create buildings that have more interesting architecture and geometric shapes and aren't just normal square buildings that we're so used to living in today, and having more plants and nature integrated into the cities we live in and all of those things. So I hope that we're able to live more artfully in general.
I love that. And immediately I just started thinking Barcelona and all the architecture there. So, absolutely.
Well, Anatola, I mean, you've had, because of your work, such an amazing opportunity to collaborate with other influential people. If you could collaborate now going forward with any human or machine on a groundbreaking project, what would that look like?
Definitely. There are so many projects that could be created, and I'm really a proponent of collaboration because I believe life is about the people you meet and the things that you create with them. But if I can really think about what I would love to do, I would love to create some sort of large scale immersive art museum, something like Dubai's Museum of the Future, that can create artifacts that are not just history being collected in a museum, but artifacts from the futures that we want to live in, or artifacts from alternate ways that history could have unfolded. And in addition, I would love to collaborate on some sort of smart city that's able to be built. So if any crypto billionaires listening, feel free to call me up and we can build a city right now.
I love it. And Matthew, same question back to you. If you could collaborate with any human or machine on a groundbreaking project, what would that look like?
Yeah, for me, I'm always really partial to humanoid robots, right? So I think that creating some sort of interactive experience where all of the world's humanoid robots gather would be really fun and fascinating for me, because there's so many different types of innovations taking place in this space right now, that and no two company is alike. Like, they all specialize uh, in in different ways, which make their own robots unique. But what is clear is that the industry as a whole is evolving to not only incorporate these creations into society at large, but they're becoming much more robust and able to effectively maneuver and move about in our human space, right? So, um, the way that this looks, and it's going to show up in the years to come, and the very near future, is a really wild place for sure.
Wow, Matthew. All right. Well, if anybody out there is building, humanoid robots in mass numbers, you know who to call when you all have a party.
Yeah, yeah, for
But
sure.
humanoid robots is definitely a trend that we wanted to cover during our emerging trends forecast. So, Matthew, tell us what else is happening with humanoid robots. What kind of humanoid
Yeah.
robots are you seeing? What's their purpose? And what do you anticipate for the year ahead?
Yeah, sure. So, what is their purpose? That purpose varies on the specialty of the company making them. So, one really powerful example is at the most recent edition that just concluded of CES. One of the most popular booths there was a humanoid robotics group called Realbotics, and they make companionship robots. So these are robots that are built specifically to form relationships with humans, right? And so they have a lot of AI technology that they draw on in order to facilitate this kind of connection, right? This emotional connection with them. Um, and also the physical platform, it looks very realistic. It's able to make you smile, make you laugh, right, tell jokes. And you can't really do that unless that humanoid robot looks like you, right? You can't really emotionally connect with something that looks like a toaster, for example, or something, right? So some so these robotics companies that are focusing on making these creations look like us are really starting to captivate global interest. And there are some uh, really fascinating examples of this taking place. Another recent example is by this new company in Shenzhen called Engine AI. And their humanoid robot that doesn't, it's not really, I don't think, meant to be a social robot, doesn't look like a human, but it's the platform that they've built, it has the most accurate I've seen to date human gait. Like, so it's a bipedal robot. It's walking along the streets, and it walks and moves exactly like a human, or very close to it. So you can imagine a future where, like, these companies, who maybe they're not developing the faces and robots to look like them, but they provide a very convenient, robust platform by which other companies that do specialize in creating skins for robots, the motors for facial expressions, and put it on these platforms. It's like, so the robotic space generally is going to become a lot more collaborative, where other companies that are specialized in one product work with other companies who do something entirely different, all to create like this really compelling platform of a humanoid robot that can do all sorts of things in the world. And that's just two examples. I mean, there are really so many companies popping up now. It's an
And
exciting
we
time.
were also seeing a lot of companion robots that were dogs. They look like service animals. They're so lifelike. It's hard to even tell the difference. I saw one sleeping and I was like, whoa, that really looks like a real dog. So, I mean, there's plenty of use cases where I'm sure that
Yeah,
definitely.
the dog platform for robotics is actually it's really unique because it's very stable, right? And so there's applications of like in fire fighting initiatives that like there have been a couple of companies who have done this very successfully with humanoid or with by quadruped robots where they can go over terrain that normal humans wouldn't be able to do very effectively and put out fires. So yeah, it's an exciting time for sure.
When I first heard about robot dogs, I remember being very overwhelmed. I usually have a more optimistic approach when it comes to AI, but robot dogs, especially being used in the military, was something that felt more scary for me, thinking about
Mhm.
replacing soldiers with robot dogs. But when I heard the use case for robot dogs for as companions and how they can offer a say an elderly person who wasn't able to care for an actual dog or was unable to have one, maybe they're allergic, they can still have that
Yeah.
same companionship with a robot dog. So it's really fascinating.
Hmm.
Anatola, I couldn't agree with you more. When I see the four-legged ones that don't have any fur on them or fake fur or whatever it might be, they do look a little
Sure.
frightening and intimidating. I'm a little intimidated by those ones, but the one I was referring to looked like a golden retriever. Nothing to worry about there. A lap.
Well, unless it's a wolf in
Great.
sheep's clothing, right? I mean,
Oh,
that
it is
that
though.
could
You're
very
right.
well
You're
be.
so right. They just make
We
it
never
look
know.
cute and fluffy. Absolutely. All right.
But
Well, any final thoughts as we wrap this up, Anatola?
well, I just had a question for Matthew, which was that when it comes to humanoid robots, do you think that these developers should embrace them looking like machines by having visible brains or other structures, or should we really lean into them being being masked and looking as human as possible? I know that
Mm,
when I think about the same thing with art, I love embracing the fact that it is AI and being unapologetically digital instead of
yes.
trying to really fake it and
Yeah.
make it look as real as possible. And so I'm curious what you think about that in terms of the humanoid robots.
Yeah. My opinion on this mirrors actually the founder of Hanson Robotics, David Hanson, and he believes that no matter how robust these robots get, they should always be clearly artificial. So
Mhm.
never should there be a point in the future which is the capability is very on the near horizon for these creations to be very convincingly human, right? So David Hansen believes that there should always be some sort of aspect about them which distinguishes them from humans, right? So I would definitely agree with this and appreciate the development going in this direction going forward. It certainly will be from Hanson Robotics.
Mm, all
Thank you,
right.
Matthew. I was wondering walking around CES, at what point in the future am I going to be walking around CES and see robots that I can't distinguish that they're a robot, because I know that it'll come eventually. So
If it's a Hanson robot, you'll always be able to distinguish it. That's for sure.
good to know. Good to know. Great job, Hanson
Yeah.
Robotics. Well, thank you both so much for joining us today. And we are so grateful to have your time and that you shared your insights. And we wish you nothing but the best in the year ahead.
Thank
Stay
you
Thank you
so
safe.
so
much.
much for having us.
All right. Welcome back, everyone. That was a fun and thought provoking conversation with Matthew and Anatola. What did you think, Johannes?
Well, Tiffany, we tend to focus on the technology in all the events and recordings that we have. However, a lot of the technology can turn into art. Take, for example, IoT wearables, or take, for example, Gen AI. You can create great computer art with Gen AI. Now, when we start talking about robotics, you can expect that they will lead to various art forms, from robots creating art, and we have several examples, to robots being created as art objects. So we are witnessing the development of new art forms as we speak. So it's going to be great looking forward. And I'm looking forward to see what art is being created.
Thanks, Johannes. And next, let's review the 4 key trends shaping the future of mobility, which are vehicle to everything, or V2X, autonomous driving, electrification, and mobility as a service. And V2X communication systems allow vehicles to interact with each other and infrastructure to improve safety and reduce congestion in real time. Starting in January 2025, BMW will produce the new BMW 5 Series equipped with V2X technology, which represents a significant step toward a higher level of autonomous driving. And with the new V2X module providing critical safety alerts such as emergency brake warnings, red light violation warnings, and intersection collision warnings. And BMW and other automakers have been swept into the generative AI hype mix. A trend that started last year as automakers started adding Gen AI, ChatGPT, or LLMs throughout their vehicle technology. And BMW used CES 2025 to showcase its new in-car user interface, which uses Amazon's Alexa custom assistant technology in these future vehicles, as well as those on the road today. And this is a great example of another trend we wanted to highlight, which is voice user interfaces. And a final example of V2X is from Qualcomm, who came to CES with improvements to its Snapdragon digital chassis, a suite of cloud-connected platforms for automakers, and Cockpit, its digital cockpit and infotainment system. What do you anticipate for V2X in 2025, Johannes?
Well, I expect V2X technology to truly gain momentum in 2025, largely thanks to 5G's ultra-low latency and robust connectivity. And of course, 5G, 5GA, and 6G and V2X are joined at the hip. But the low latency will enable vehicles, infrastructure, and even pedestrian devices to communicate in real time, enhancing road safety and efficiency. Imagine receiving immediate alerts about upcoming hazards or automatically adjusting traffic signals to ease congestion. With the right regulatory framework and continued advancements in sensor technology, V2X will transition from pilot project to everyday use, ultimately creating a more intelligent, efficient, and safer mobility ecosystem for everyone.
Thanks, Johannes. And now let's move on to autonomous vehicles. In the early 2010s, the autonomous driving industry offered optimistic predictions that self-driving cars would become mainstream in 2025. But despite the huge progress in technology, regulatory challenges, safety concerns, and the complexity of real-world driving environments have slowed widespread adoption. As a result, the experts are now seeing the rollout as a gradual process rather than an overnight change, with software-defined vehicles playing a significant role. What do you predict for autonomous vehicles in 2025, Johannes?
Well, I foresee autonomous vehicles moving from small-scale pilots to broader real-world implementation in 2025, thanks to advances in sensor fusion, V2X communication, and AI-powered decision-making. We'll see more driverless shuttles in controlled environments like business campuses or limited urban routes, delivering tangible benefits in safety and convenience. Regulatory frameworks will continue to evolve, allowing for expanded testing and, in some areas, commercial deployment. Consumer trust is, of course, key, and as early adopters showcase reliable performance and improved efficiency, skepticism should wane, and you can expect that it will slowly wane. While fully driverless cars on every road will still be a few years off, I believe 2025 marks a turning point where autonomous vehicles become a visible, practical part of our transportation landscape, signaling an exciting shift in personal mobility.
Thank you. And as for electrification and mobility as a service, these are part of a bigger push for a more sustainable future, which brings us to our next trend, sustainable tech. And sustainable tech is a broader term encompassing any technology that aims to minimize environmental impact and promote long-term sustainability across various aspects of industry. What do you predict for sustainable tech in 2025, Johannes?
In 2025, sustainable tech will evolve and continue to evolve in multiple fronts. We're likely to witness major advancements in renewable energy solutions and smarter infrastructure. Think connected smart grids that integrate seamlessly with our energy systems. There will be a push towards more greener manufacturing practices, with companies adopting closed-loop systems to minimize waste and maximize efficiency. Additionally, innovations in IoT and data analytics will play a big role in monitoring and reducing environmental impacts across industries. Ultimately, sustainable tech isn't just about reducing footprints, it's about creating a resilient, future-proof ecosystem where economic growth and environmental stewardship go hand in hand.
Thank you. And during CES, I was blown away by the large sphere in the X weather booth that could display weather patterns, lightning strikes, earthquakes, and fire, to name a few, which we've seen far too much of in 2025 as the wildfires in Cali are continuing to burn. I saw we have someone from San Diego watching, so my heart goes out to you and everyone else impacted by these fires. But climate tech specifically refers to technologies designed to address climate change by reducing greenhouse gas emissions and adapting to its effects. So what do you anticipate for climate tech in 2025, Johannes?
So when I saw that sphere at the X-Weather booth, I was truly amazed by its ability to display weather patterns, lightning strikes, earthquakes, not just on a local scale, but also global, and fires. So it's a clear reminder that of the climate challenges that we are facing today. Looking ahead in 2025, I expect climate tech to become even more integrated in our daily lives. We'll see rapid advances in sensor technologies and data analytics that will enable real-time climate monitoring, helping communities better prepare for extreme weather events. At the same time, there will be a significant boost in investment for startups working on solutions like carbon capture and renewable energy storage. In short, climate tech in 2025 will not only help us adapt to climate change, but also drive sustainable growth, creating a resilient future for everyone.
Thanks, Johannes. And in 2025, the proliferation of small satellites is another trend we want to highlight. Driven by cost-effective design, miniaturization, and mass production capabilities, small sats allow for wider applications in areas like Earth observation, communication networks, and scientific research. Anything to add about small sats, Johannes?
Well, the small satellite market continues to grow, Tiffany. To give it two examples, Starlink has 7,800 of its planned 30,000 satellites in orbit right now, and Amazon's Project Kuiper will launch the first of its 3,000 satellites this year. LEO is getting more crowded every year, Tiffany.
Thanks, Johannes. And we have one last interview for you today where Angela Thurman will share 3 trends on ERP's role in digital transformation. Let's check it out. Hello, everyone. You're watching the 2025 Emerging Trends Forecast. I'm Tiffany Nielsen, and joining me is Angela Thurman, the founder and CEO of Thurman Co. How are you today, Angela?
I'm doing very well, Tiffany. Thank you. How are you?
I'm fantastic. And Angela Thurman is an electrical engineer and project management professional with more than 30 years of experience in complex technical project management. And is there anything else you'd like to add about your background and expertise, Angela?
Thank you, Tiffany. My background is primarily in aerospace, telecommunications, and manufacturing. So pretty much focused on highly regulated industries.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And you have 3 trends on ERP's role in digital transformation to share with us that companies should know for the year ahead. And for anyone unfamiliar, ERP stands for Enterprise Resource Planning. Can you begin by quickly explaining to our audience what an ERP system is?
So briefly, the ERP system is the overall software system that collects data from throughout the organization. So all departments contribute information to this centralized tool, and all of the employees would be able to view this data for their own work and research. So, for example, the sales department would enter sales information, and then that would be used by the manufacturing team to build the widgets that the organization sells. And then the shipping department would view that data to know how many widgets to send to any particular customer on any given day. And the billing department would then know who to bill, which customers to bill for how many widgets. So it's the information that really is the heartbeat of the organization.
Thank you, Angela. And when you look at the size of some of these enterprises, it's a no-brainer that they would need a system like this.
Right. So how much raw material do I need to buy from which vendors to build the things that we sell to our customers?
Great. And for your first trend, can you tell us more about the integration of AI and machine learning into the ERP system?
Sure. So I think that the first trend in this area is that AI and machine learning are going to help the users with enhanced decision making from their ERP system. So AI and machine learning bring real-time data analysis to the ERP system, which then enables the users to make more accurate and timely decisions. This helps the business then respond quickly to market changes and operational changes. And then next, AI also enhances the ERP security to detect anomalies and potential threats in real time. And so this adds a layer of protection for that sensitive business data. So this enhances overall the cybersecurity of the organization. And then machine learning uses algorithms that can analyze the historical data to predict trends and demand fluctuations and potential risks. And this capability supports better inventory management, resource allocation, and demand forecasting. So we call this predictive analytics. Now, with all of that information, the organization can begin to implement process automation, which is one of my favorite subjects. So AI streamlines these repetitive tasks, such as data entry, invoice processing, and reporting, to reduce human error and to free up those employees for more strategic work. And machine learning also models and optimizes your supply chain operations by predicting delays, recommending alternative suppliers, and identifying any bottlenecks that may occur before they escalate. Overall, this just enhances your supply chain management. Can I help you with any further examples?
I think you made it pretty clear. Thank you so much. And your second trend is the further expansion of cloud-based ERP solutions. Can you tell us more about that?
So we're already seeing many users opt for cloud-based solutions. And one of the primary reasons for that is the cost efficiency that the cloud offers. So cloud-based solutions reduce that upfront capital investment that the organization would have to spend. And by shifting to a subscription-based model with a cloud-based solution, the organization can save on the hardware, the maintenance, and even the IT staffing costs. And the cloud-based solutions also offer greater flexibility, and they are easily scaled so that the business can grow as the business grows. So their ERP solution grows and flexes and scales as the needs of the organization change. So companies can expand and resources can be added, modules can be added without that infrastructure investment. And that enables greater agility for the company. Cloud-based solutions are also faster to deploy, and those ERP systems are faster than, say, your on-premises solutions. And this allows the businesses to achieve greater operational efficiency sooner. Another thing that I like about the cloud-based solutions is that they are globally accessible. So all of your employees, your stakeholders, everyone is able to access the system and the information in the ERP system from anywhere in the world, provided that they have an internet connection. And that really improves collaboration.
Thanks, Angela. And your third and final trend is the introduction of industry-specific ERP solutions. Why will this be impactful, and can you maybe provide an example for us?
Sure. So one of the reasons an industry-specific ERP solution is a good thing is that these solutions are designed with specialized features and workflows and even dashboards that address the unique needs of a specific industry. And so this reduces the need for extensive customization. So we all know that what typically happens is that a business buys an out-of-the-box ERP solution and then still has to spend a lot of money to have custom modules developed for their specific business needs. And that ends up costing a lot of money. And then with these industry-specific ERP solutions, it's faster to implement them because they come pre-configured with modules and templates that are specific to their industry. And these processes allow faster deployment compared to those generic ERP systems. And then another reason that I really like them is that because they are specific to an industry, these solutions often come with built-in compliance tools that are tailored to those industry regulations. Now, this might be ISO quality standards, or if you're in the healthcare industry, it might be HIPAA regulations, but that's very important because if you are not compliant with your regulatory requirements, that could lead to being debarred from bidding on government contracts or even fines or imprisonment. So it's very, very important that you are compliant with all the regulatory requirements. But probably the greatest benefit of the industry-specific ERP system is simply cost efficiency, because businesses can save on that custom development that I mentioned earlier, and it can support leveraging this system because it already addresses the core operational needs of the business, the industry, with those intuitive interfaces, dashboards, roles, and tasks. And frankly, it improves user adoption. So when this ERP system is deployed, users are more likely to adopt it, use it, and become proficient with this new ERP system. And again, we all know that one of the things that organizations face is that resistance to change when a new ERP system is developed or implemented in the organization. So anything that's going to help user adoption is going to be a benefit.
Thanks, Angela. Yeah, we talked a lot about that and the barriers to adoption when we went through industry to industry on why they're not using advanced technologies. And there's definitely some resistance that needs to be taken care of. So making it easier is definitely a great way to handle that.
Yes. Yes.
And one trend that I recognize for ERP's role in digital transformation is the role ERP will play for Internet of Things integration. And combining and presenting IoT data through an ERP interface will provide enterprises with many competitive advantages in the future, including a user friendly interface. Are you seeing this in the current landscape, or is this a glimpse of what's on the horizon, Angela?
So I do see some companies already adopting IoT into their ERP systems, and I do strongly believe that we'll see this continue to grow. So one of the things, or an example of that, could be collecting data from the factory floor and bringing that into the ERP system. And that could be something as simple as the KPIs for the manufacturing of whatever widget it is that your company is building and selling. So let's say that you want to know if your processes are in control. And so all of the measurements that you take to verify that this widget conforms. So how much does it weigh? The width, the length, the height, whatever whatever measurements you take, those are all collected, and then you could create control charts, and that way the team would know your processes are in control or they're not. And if they are, everything is great, and you can with great confidence tell your customers, we are building a conforming product, and it's of the best quality. If the process control charts are not in control, then you send your team to verify why they're not, and you create a better quality product. So that's just one example.
Great. Thank you so much, Angela. And before we close, do you have a prediction to share with us on what's next for the future of ERP?
I think that we will continue to see even more of these industry specific solutions. Not that we'll see more ERP software vendors crop up, but that the existing landscape will begin to provide more industry specific solutions. So we already have great examples of that, but I think that those vendors will begin to collaborate with industry forums and organizations to better understand what are the nuances of that industry that they can begin to incorporate into their ERP solutions.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Angela. We enjoyed your insights, and we hope that you'll join us again to share more information with us in the future. Thanks, Angela.
Thank you, Tiffany.
Have a great day. Bye bye. Welcome back. It was great to hear from Angela on the ERP's role in digital transformation. What did you think of Angela's interview, Johannes?
Well, a couple of things. So we're seeing AI and Gen AI applications being deployed across all industries. And I'm glad to hear from Angela that the ERP industry is following this trend. And ERP in the past required a lot of manual data entry simply to keep the ERP system up to date. So also good to hear that with AI being deployed, that a lot of that manual entry is now being automated. The other thing that really stood out, because yes, an ERP system in the past, you had to do a lot of customization to make it fit for your particular company. I'm glad that the ERP industry is now developing industry-specific templates, which and also that the ERP industry also is developing compliance templates, because compliance is something that's well, I wouldn't say a headache, but something that you need to follow very carefully to make sure that you don't lose your compliance. So great story, a great update of what's happening in the ERP industry. And yes, it's AI is definitely going to help also the ERP system.
Thanks, Johannes. And as we wrap things up, we want to again thank all of you for joining us today, because this is one of the most intensive events that I've had to prepare for. And I feel it's because we're experiencing exponential growth for AI, IoT, robotics, and the other advanced technologies that are out there. And they're all being done at record speed. Wouldn't you agree, Johannes?
Oh, absolutely, Tiffany. Gen AI was supposedly slowing down, but I'm not seeing that. The AI industry is firing on all cylinders, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that there are new announcements in the AI industry on a daily basis. It's hard to keep up right now. There are so many new products being launched.
I know there were many news that came, many pieces of news that came out this week that I wanted to highlight too, but we only have so much time and we've really pushed it to the max today. And be sure to register for all of our upcoming events, including the Green Things Summit, which happens annually every April, where we'll talk about everything green, from sustainability to energy efficiency and more, with panel discussions, keynotes, and fireside chats. And we also have Intelligent Thinking coming up in July, which focuses on artificial intelligence, and the Summit of Things, which happens every October. And that will be a 3-day virtual event where we dive into IoT, AI, and other advanced technologies. And to close out the year, we will be hosting our 6th annual Industry Insights IoT Awards. And we have many speaking, sponsorship, and advertising opportunities available. So please reach out to us to learn more. Anything to add about our upcoming events, Johannes?
Well, this is going to be an interesting year, Tiffany. There are so many trends, and the AI sector continuing to maintain its momentum. There will be numerous announcements. So it's going to be hard to rise above the noise, but our events are a great way to stay up to date and connect with people who thrive and work on the cutting edge of technology. So contact us if you want to increase your exposure and reach, or if you're looking for more leads.
Before we go, let's take a look at all of the trends in a recap video. Let's check them out now.